Good evening. That's okay. All righty, got quite a bit to celebrate and to talk about this evening, so here we go. All right. First, we want to give a shout out to Ms. Abby Kroll, who received the 40s North Annual Teacher ACE Award. Although she knew about this since the COVID time, she and other honorees were able to be celebrated in person recently. So we want to say congratulations again to Abby. And I love Abby's quote when she's talking about why she loves teaching music in Champaign Unit 4 School District. She says it's almost daily, and they, talking about her students, they'll say this as well, I tear up and I weep at the beauty of music that they make and the magic that we create and that they create with each other. That's why she was chosen as well, because of that passion that she displays. And so if you didn't get a chance to see the article in the paper, it was dynamic. So let's give it up for Abby Kroll. We also want to take time to shout out and give kudos to, is it Mr. Froelich? Michael Froelich, a third-year PE teacher at Central High School. He was recently named the News Gazette Teacher of the Week, and I particularly enjoyed his comment on his most fulfilling moments on the job are when he sees all of his students laughing and actively participating in their lessons, and he specifically when a student doesn't feel comfortable or initially are wanting to participate in a game or activity, and then he sees them taking a healthy risk and actually enjoy the lesson or the activity. He said that's a great feeling. So what I see and saw in that was that Mr. Froelich is really promoting team building and that whole piece around relational capacity because that is crucial, especially at high school, for high school PE. So let's give it up for Mr. Froelich. Also want to take time out to recognize News Gazette Soccer Player of the Year, Central High School's Diego Zarco, and the soccer coach of the year is his big brother, Alex Zarco. So that's pretty cool. Congratulations to the two of them. And I also want to shout out all of our athletes who were chosen on first team, second team, or honorable mention over our fall sports. So congratulations to all of them. Great job. Also, we want to say congratulations to the following students from both Central and Centennial who were selected to perform in the ILMEA All-State Music Ensemble. So we have 12 high school students who've been selected, and they're going to perform in Peoria in January. So we want to say congratulations to those students and to their teachers. Job well done. Also, we had our Central students visit Parkland. So we had over 40 Central High School students were able to participate in the Parkland College Computer Science Experience. They participated in hands-on learning sessions in the areas of 3D computer animation, computer network, PC maintenance, hardware, computer programming, and audio production technology. So we are so grateful and so thankful for our relationship and our partnership with Parkland College. So let's give it up for our Central students, and for Parkland that participation in that partnership. We also had the art show. The opening reception for the 2023 Attach Art Show featured art students' work from Centennial and Central High School. They visited the Krannert Art Museum for a one-day intensive day of learning, followed by art making. It would take me more than a day, I'm just saying. And our students' creativity is awesome. We want to say thank you to Krannert, CU Schools Foundation, the Volk family, and others who support this important program. So take a look at these outstanding art projects. We have some talented students. Great job. It's okay. We also want to take time to shout out the Edison boys basketball. They were featured in the media. They were on the front page of the paper. They had their little piece on the news. And their coach, Coach Alhoff, I'll get it right. They were featured in the paper and on TV for their off-the-court work. If I'm not mistaken, these young men are undefeated. I believe they're undefeated, or maybe they just lost the week. See, that's what happens when you get featured on the news, right? But anyway, well, they've had their first loss. But when this aired, they were undefeated. But in my book, they're still undefeated. When you can take your time off, your day off, and volunteer at the Eastern Illinois Food Bank, I shout out to those young men and to their coach and their families. So great job. This time, we also want to recognize Carrie Busey Elementary. They were ranked among the top 40% of elementary schools in Illinois by the U.S. News and World Report as one of the best schools. So way to go, Carrie Busey Bobcats. Also, Centennial High School, they were awarded the distinction presented it was Perkins and Will. They, at the III conference that the board members and I and some of cabinet folks went to, won the award of distinction of the Exhibition of Educational Environments from the Illinois Association of School Boards. The Exhibition of Educational Environment competition is sponsored by IASB and Service Associates, and the award goes to projects representing innovative design solutions, both in new construction and renovations of public school facilities. And so all of state of Illinois who was there, they saw this, there were awards there and the pictures. It was announced in the big room and everything, so it was really pretty phenomenal to see that. So congratulations to Perkins and Will and to Centennial for their award of distinction. Oh yeah. And not to miss out on IPA, IPA's design architect was also represented and recognized. BLDD for the architect of International Prep Academy, the redesign, they received honorable mention. So it was pretty cool. Yes, we yelled and screamed yeah, we did. In the session, we yelled and screamed. So everybody's like, who are those people? We did. Great job. So we can't do this work without our parents, and so I want to shout out the Illinois PTA and the Family Community Engagement, the actual combination and partnership, the collaborative work. So Unifor's Department of Family Community Engagement and the Illinois PTA are formally partnering to work together to increase parent engagement. They're planning parent workshops, school community events, as well as training opportunities for our educators. And we look forward to accomplishing great things together. So we're really excited about this partnership. So we're looking forward to some amazing things coming from this work and from this collaboration. We also want to continue on that vein with PTA. The Family and Community Engagement and the Illinois PTA Family Nutrition Night. On November 30th, parents learn how to prepare quick, nutritious meals while students learn about nutrition. Every family received approximately $50 worth of healthy foods and a $20 grocery gift card provided by the Illinois PTA. And then there's some of the pictures there, and you can see the faces, and some of the kids are like pretty excited about what's about to take place. So congratulations, and we're happy about this partnership. Also, yes, Illinois PTA STEM grant recipients. So STEM plus Families Science Festival. So Barksdall PTA, Booker T. Washington PTA Council, and the North School, well, I don't want to care about those. We got three there. Stratton PTA, we're going to talk about ours. Barksdall, Booker T, and Stratton all received funds, grants to help with STEM grants and STEM projects in their schools. Our partnership with Illinois PTA is growing strong, and we're really excited. Now, Stratton has a pretty vibrant PTA program going on right now, so we're just looking forward to increasing our PTA partnerships with our families. So job well done with PTA, and congratulations, great work, Dr. Harden, for your work on all this. It's that time of year. December 25th, 2023 through January 5th, 2024, there is no school for staff. And on January 8th, or students, January 8th and 9th is Institute Day, so that means no school for students. But everyone else will be back, and then students return on January 10th. So all school campuses will be closed to the public December 25th through January 5th, except for scheduled athletic events. So if you want to know if your building is going to be open to the public, not until January 8th, okay? Unless there's athletic events. So I know staff are probably clapping on that one. With the holidays coming and this time of year also brings, not everyone's not full of joy. And we have to acknowledge that. And so with that, just as a reminder, we still have Care Solace available. 24/7, 365 mental health care coordination services for Unit 4 School District for our students, our staff, and their families. So if you're a student, a staff member, or you have students in our school district, Care Solace is for you. We're on your side every day, every step of the way is their mantra. So like I said, winter season can be difficult for some, so this is a reminder that free assistance is available. And so please visit our website for information. You can call, you can text, or video chat with Care Solace to get connected to mental health care. So we just want to make sure we remind everyone, take care of yourselves. With that being said, winter is here. You can feel it in the air. Emergency weather procedures, the e-learning emergency days are still, they have been, so we're well into December, so this is a good time to remind all of our families, and you all, some of you have students in our district as well, about our emergency weather procedures. We do encounter inclement weather, so when we do, we may need to use an e-learning day. This allows our students to attend classes remotely without adding instructional days at the end of the year. So we just want to make sure that you take a look at this, remember about it. Please visit our website to learn more. And so I will do my best to say there's a potential for an e-learning day by 2 o'clock the day before. But again, I didn't go to school to be a weather person, so I'm at the mercy of the weather people. So all I can do is say there's a potential, and we'll do everything in our power to make an announcement by 5:30 a.m. the day of. And so sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I get it wrong, and I just try to make sure we do the best thing for our students to keep them safe, and our bus drivers as well. Okay. It's also that time of year when we talk about the enrollment overview. The official data collection is submitted to Illinois State Board of Education every year on October 1st. So the enrollment information is from each district, and the due date for verification is actually November 16th to allow districts time to ensure accurate student counts via the local student database and upload the state student information system. And as you take a look at this slide here, and we'll also make this public as well, the total enrollment includes all students assigned to the district Unit 4, as well as private servicing facilities, and the students who receive special education services until the age of 21, which you can see on the slide here. They're identified, noted as GO, G1, G2, and G3. That's what that is for. But everything else is all of our other grade levels. Okay? So we'll make sure we put that out there. And so this is just another way to look at it. Our Unit 4 district enrollment, I'm sorry, I guess I need to push it up there. This is our district enrollment trend data from 2018 through 2023-24. So you can see our numbers fluctuating up and down a little bit, but we're kind of trending in the same number for the past 3-4 years. Okay. Unit 4 grade by grade enrollment. This is here as well. So you can see how many students we have in each grade level. And it's been trending also since 2018-19 school year. And this is, again, we take this number October 1 every year. Reminder, we need you. We're still hiring. We're still hiring bus drivers and monitors and teachers, and we'd love for you to join our Unit 4 family. You can scan the QR code for transportation positions, learn more about the new teacher sign-on bonus. Mr. Kleber, you want to add anything to that?
The QR code, as Dr. Boozer noted, is right up there, and you can also apply online at champaignschools.org. We have all sorts of positions for all sorts of folks who are looking for all sorts of hours and schedules.
Thank you. As always, we are still working on making sure that everyone remembers and knows that school success starts with attendance. Attendance plays a pivotal role in our students' educational journey. Attending school consistently has a great impact on academic success and personal development, and so we look forward to seeing your child at school every day, and we look forward to working with you and finding ways in which we can help your child get to school every day. So this next piece is, I'm just trying to do something a little different. So you know where I've been and what I've been up to. and we'll also make this public as well. I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can be. So with that being said, last Wednesday, we had a district data day right here in the Mellon Building, and we conducted part one of our district data days. And this work is led and facilitated by our friends from Focus Schools. And the intended outcome is to ground our decisions in our data and to create measurable and actionable next steps. We want to create a series of actions via collaboration. And you can see there are people from the community that were here in the room, and we had all sectors of our families and our students represented. We also wanted to make sure that we measure our impact and get back to the what and the why that we exist and why we're doing the work we're doing. We wanted to prioritize the impact between now and March 20th. So we created some things. We looked at data, and it was data from. We got down into the data. We didn't do trend data. We just looked at last year's school data, academic data. But the next time we come back, we'll be looking at data from multiple years across the system. But it was a powerful, and so we were able to walk away with some possible next steps, so that when we come back on March 20th, that we will be able to say this is what we did and this is where we are, and it was powerful work. And so we also took an equity pause. And we took a moment to consider a few things. We talked about how might we be making assumptions and engaging in deficit thinking and assigning a root cause to other forces rather than focusing on what we can and each of us can control or influence, because my thinking is if you can't control it, if it's out of your control, how can you influence it? And so that's what we're looking at. So how can we control or influence things within our system and and our own practices? We also looked at remembering every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it gets. And what forces are in our system that may be contributing to the inequities that we see. We also looked at how might our current processes and practices and beliefs be contributing to inequity. We bravely focused on the system and our own contributions, help us identify what is in our locus of control or our influence and where we can target our improvement efforts. We embraced the we versus they mentality because everyone in the room was a part of the we. And so as I was speaking to the team that was there, it was pretty powerful for me, and I showed a little bit of vulnerability because I said to them, having all these people in the room who actually work in the system and those in the community members and partnering with us was very powerful because it reassured me that yes, we have things that we want and challenges that we are facing, but we bring people together to talk about how we can address them. And I didn't feel like it was people pointing their finger at us. And I also said to them, you have really brought back the feeling of why I came here to Champaign in the first place, left everything I know to come here to do this work because of the diversity, the people who wanted to come together and do the work together, because sometimes it can feel like people want to see you fail. It felt like that, but that day in that room, it reassured me that that was not the case. There are people who want to see Unit 4 thrive, because if we have a thriving school community, we have a thriving community in itself. And so embracing that we versus they mentality was so helpful. So that was exciting, and I can't wait to bring more to you about where we are and where we're going and some of the things that came out of the conversation and looking at the data. So some of the people who were there in the room here as well, so it's pretty powerful, so you can see of them. And working closely with our union, it's a great feeling. Collaboration is great. Also, I just want to remind everyone of the III. For those who don't know, that III is a conference that is held in the Chicago area for school districts across the state of Illinois, for board members, administrators, superintendents, and it is called III because it's the Illinois Association of School Boards, Illinois Association of Administrators, and also Illinois Association for our CFOs, for our school business officers. So just so you know, it was proud to be there because Unit 4, we were represented on 6 different panels during III, so it wasn't a vacation. We worked. So Dr. Taylor, Dr. Harden, myself, even Mr. Brown, both Mr. Browns, because we pulled up, Mr. Jamar Brown was in one of the presentations and the panels I was on, and I was asking him some questions because some of the things, he was here during that time. But Mr. Bruce Brown was able to get up on the stage and actually talk about some things that were very important. So it's a great opportunity to network and to learn from each other and from other places. So it was great. So I want to say thank you for that opportunity. The other thing is a group of administrators and I did travel to the National Alliance of Black School Educators. It's called NAPSE. And what is NAPSE? It's a nation's premier nonprofit organization devoted to furthering the academic success for the nation's children, particularly children of African descent. It was founded in 1970. It's dedicated to improving both the educational experiences and accomplishments of African American youth through the development and the use of instructional and motivational methods that increase levels of inspiration, attendance, and overall achievement. This year's theme for NAPSE was leveling up and leading the way, leadership, literacy, and learning acceleration. And it was powerful to do this because some of the group administrators who went, and some of our friends from 116 are in the picture there too. They were there as well. Our team was going to go and present, but it didn't. It fell through, so we were still going to go ahead and go. And some of this is so powerful because the being there and learning alongside others who are educating our Black children is powerful. It's not just for Black administrators or teachers. It's for every diverse group of people, teachers, administrators, board members from across the country. And we go in hopes of gaining insight to help answer questions that everyone's asking over and over again. What are we doing in Unit 4 to address the underachievement of our Black learners? So what are we doing? And so how can we better engage them in our school process? And so this was a great opportunity to learn from others because the work is getting done. The other piece is NAPSE is equity in action and aligns directly to our Unit 4 strategies in our strategic plan. Priority 1, instructional excellence. Priority 2, educational access. And priority 3, family and community engagement. They had a whole strand that was just geared toward parents and led by parents. Parents were there. They were running it and talking to each other, and it was pretty powerful. So we went there. And so some of the sessions we attended were like instructional leadership that's needed to develop talent, bringing out math genius in Black children, creating systems for leaders of color to stay and thrive. It takes a village, partnering with families and student success. So the whole session on science of reading and early literacy, leveraging fine arts and high school excellence. How there was one group where you could talk about how a school district successfully transformed instruction and increased scores and student engagement. Moving past silence to address systemic barriers, rethinking gifted education, the power of we, mobilizing Black parent advocacy for Black student advancement. And there was another one called I Pledge Allegiance to the Children, which really hit me hard because I Pledge Allegiance to the Children is transforming a failing district. And so when we forget what we're doing, we sometimes need to be reminded it's about the children. And so a pledge and allegiance to our children was powerful. Talked about leadership factors that are needed to influence students in priority and turnaround schools, and we have some priority and turnaround schools here. Leaving genius on the table, practical tools to identify, nurture, and sustain Black brilliance. So those are just some of those things that we looked at, staying focused. And I would love at some point in time to take board members there because there were board members from all over the place. And also doing some presentations, but learning is powerful and it's key. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that opportunity. And some of the people who went pay their own because they're that passionate about this work. So I just wanted to give you a little heads up about that. And I don't know if you know Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, but he was there and he cut up. He was powerful and reminded us of why we do this work. So then we also, I also learned to rely alongside my communication team at the first ever one-day communication conference. We were learning with other districts that look like us, so we got some great ideas and things to do to help us communicate better. I remember Mr. Teese and I talked about how can we better promote what's happening in Unit 4 because we do great things, but people don't know what we're doing. So I took that to heart. So I'm like, okay, how can we do better with this? And so we went and learned together on that. Also had fun last Friday at the BTW Staff Boost. A community member donated a coffee truck, the Traveling Tom, to visit BTW. So a few teammates and I went over and we gave teachers a break, and we went into the classrooms and we were teaching, attempting to teach. CKLA, yeah, I need some more help, TNL, but we did our best, but it was fascinating. The kids love it. It was a great way to just cover some classes, get to know some kids, get back into knowing why I do what I do. I'm a forever teacher. I might sit in this role as superintendent, but I'm a forever teacher, and teaching is at my heart, and I enjoyed every moment of it. And I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Ward, Ms. Suzanne Meislin, and Dr. Jackson, because they were all holding it down as well. We had fun. And so I wanted to say thank you to BTW for the invitation. I look forward to doing more and more of those things. CCC night, oh my word. If you are tired, which I was that day, but when I stepped into that building, and I enjoyed every single moment of that reading night. I had the distinct pleasure of reading The Mitten, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I used the big book. It's a long book, but it was fun. And so Miss Peggy was amazing. She was I think she's a speech path there. And so she and we're going to take our show on the road. So y'all can't find us. We're taking the show on the road. But as I read the book, Miss Peggy was helping the students to act them out. So they had the little puppet kind of like things to go in there with the story. And I didn't know that a homemade knit mitten created by Baba. She's the character in the story, because Stretch so big. But I'm not going to tell y'all the story. Y'all got to read it for yourself. But you have to read it. It was so much fun. I loved it. The kids were amazing. I felt the love. So from 5:30 to 7, that's what I did. I thought I was just going to read for 15 minutes and go. No, it was fun. Also, just so you know, I also listening about being out there more and talking to our families and to our community. So I'm inviting everyone to Coffee with Dr. B. So please join me for coffee and conversation on Friday, January 12th. I'm going to be waiting for you at Panera Bread on Kirby from 8 to 9:30 a.m. Come and join me with some coffee and let's just talk. Get to know me, ask me questions. What's going on with Unit 4, what's happening, just a way for people to get to know who I am and I get to know the community as well. IT, let her roll, please. This is part 2 from the podcast, the last time, and our kids, they brought some serious questions. So, you take a listen to this. Welcome back to It's a Great Day in Unit 4. We have Zaira Wells, Cameron McCullough, and L'Oreal Allen back for another exciting episode. You all have any questions for me?
Yes.
I also have questions.
Cameron was sitting on the edge of his seat going, yes. Okay. So are you asking for a friend or are you asking for you?
Both.
What do you think is the biggest obstacle that you face while being so deeply involved in the facility?
Asking the right questions and not being afraid to shake up things a little bit, to challenge the status quo. Not change for the sake of change, but change for the better.
How do you plan to bridge the gap and rebuild trust with parents and community members who may be dissatisfied with some of your decisions?
Ask me questions. Talk to me. I'm transparent. I'm always going to lead from what's best for students. Sometimes that means adults don't always feel good about the decision, but I'm never going to do anything that's going to hurt kids. So welcome back. Okay, thank you. We've been there. So check it out if you have not gone to the podcast, and we're everywhere. When I tell you we have amazing students, those questions came and they were not afraid to ask those questions. So I'm just thankful for that. So and I just also want to take this time a little bit too, just to kind of talk to you all about some of my concerns. Because sometimes I don't get a chance to say some of the things that really need to be said regarding some of the things that's been happening in our system. So I just want to provide you all an update on transportation and our students, getting our students to and from school. And as you know, our district continues to face a severe school bus driver shortage. The driver shortage did not just begin this school year or last year. We have experienced this downward shift since pre-pandemic days. It's been a challenging transporting our children to and from school and being on time every day. I know this is a frustrating situation for our families, and I sincerely apologize for this inconvenience and the hardship that this may be causing. And this is from me. This is not from the board. So I'm talking to you all as family members, board, but I'm also talking to my families because this is from me. And however, we are committed to providing our students with a safe and reliable transportation system. And I'm not going to rest, and my team is not going to rest until we find a solution to this problem. I assure you that we will continue to do everything we can to address this situation. We have implemented multiple ideas and ways to attract drivers, including raising wages, offering bonuses, and working with staff agencies. We are also grateful for our families who elected to drive their students to and from school. Our transportation department and our team is working extra hours to ensure students get to and from school every day. But unfortunately, we are not unique in this situation, as school districts nationwide also scramble to find qualified bus drivers. We're all seeking practical solutions to this dire situation. So I ask for your patience and your understanding, and I should say your continued patience and understanding. And please know that we are doing everything possible to transport our students to and from school safely and on time. We're grateful for your patience and understanding as we work through this challenging situation. We're committed to providing our students with safe and reliable transportation. And we will only rest once we find a solution to this problem. So with that, I want to say thank you for your support, and I really do. But now I want to shift it back to board members. I also, because this is a major concern and a challenge for us in Unit 4, and I just wanted to take this time to publicly address some of the concerns from Board Member Holder and a couple of our families regarding the transportation reimbursement process. And so, as you all recall, during our two-on-two conversations, we discussed the recommendation that I received from our attorney, Brian Crowley, and USI, our insurance advisors, on the matter of what liability limit to use. So that was a question. So in addition to raising a question about the $100,000 insurance requirement, Ms. Holder also questioned the legality of the 1099 issuance of the current agreement. So I wanted to just bring that to the forefront and just kind of remind you of the language that's in the current agreement. This is not board policy. This was an agreement that we crafted. And it says the parent guardian shall be considered as an independent contractor in all respects under the terms and conditions of this agreement and has no employment relationship with the district. The parent/guardian shall be responsible for any taxes related to this agreement. Then again, on January 27th, 2023, we received word from Baker Tilly, our auditors, and they shared this information because they're the tax experts. I'm not. I do curriculum and instruction, so I listen to them. They said payments for services provided by an independent contractor, which the parents in this case would be, per school's contract, would be reportable on a 1099 NEC if they meet the $600 payment threshold. So for those board members who were a part of this last year or been ongoing with this, you may recall that this reimbursement piece really came about from the work we did last year around the whole student assignment process. And I was given the directive that transportation could not impede on our quest for change. I took that to heart, and we actually made sure we did not do anything drastic. And because at that time, it didn't make sense not to do anything extremely drastic following COVID as per our families' request. And our families were like, please don't disrupt 64, whatever percent, 90% of our students. And so it made a lot of sense. Well, here we are. And I have to say, we reported last year that if we don't take a closer look at our transportation, we would still have issues that we're facing today with getting our students to and from school consistently. So when we crafted this parent reimbursement piece, it really was in the hopes of removing some of the pressure from the transportation department, as we suggested, and so that's why we suggested the parent reimbursement process. And so it was designed so that our families that could take their children to school could do so, and would potentially eliminate some of the many routes that we have in order to support our families that rely solely on the yellow bus services for daily transportation to and from school. So when the school assignment process, formerly known as Choice, we also talked about this back in December of 2022, about this in cabinet, and our CFO pointed out to us that we probably would need a 1099. And so I gave her a directive to further look into it with our auditors, and so she did that. And so I'm not sure if I missed anything. Ms. Matkowski, do you have anything you want to add or share regarding that conversation that we had?
Just that we had raised the issue if we needed to do the 1099. We went back to the auditors and asked the question. That was the response they gave back. And we've proceeded with the process of making sure that we have the data. So.
Is this a reimbursement program? So it's really a non-taxable event then? It's just something that we have to provide them?
Right, and so, yeah, right, well, and according to our auditors, and so with that I will say is, there's two things on the table here. One is the liability piece of the insurance that we require, and the conversation around, do we keep it at the 100,000 that we decided to do, or do we go with the state minimum, which is something that a couple board members have asked for us to do, so that families who can't afford the $100,000 policy could do so. But after giving information and looking at this, I'm not comfortable saying we drop it to the minimum. But if you direct me as the board to do so, then I will follow your directive. And then as far as the 1099 piece, if you want me to drop that, I'll have to see if we can do that legally and continue to work with our auditors to find out and continue asking to get some more information, because I'll ask Ms. Matkowski to follow up with them again and get that information if that's the direction that the board so chooses for me to go.
With regards to the 1099 piece, and obviously everyone's heard me go on about this situation, I think there's some confusion in that 1099 is independent contractors, but we're dealing with reimbursement at what I presume to be the federal state mileage rate, so that would not be income. Correct. It's not taxable income. It is reimbursement.
It is actually considered taxable income. We specified we would pay no more than the federal reimbursement rate.
So can you explain to me how reimbursement is taxable income?
It's not necessarily reimbursement the way you're thinking of reimbursement, because you're thinking about it like an employee traveling back and forth and getting reimbursement for mileage.
Correct.
Because the transportation contract was set up to establish an independent contractor relationship, right? So we have parents who drive students without any kind of reimbursement whatsoever. For us to be able to claim the transportation claim with the state, we only have a few options of choices. One of them is we have an independent contractor who is transporting students. So I either have our district-provided buses, we have a third-party relationship with like First Student or one of the other busing companies. We have taxi cabs, which have a contractual relationship with us, or we have a third-party charter company that's transporting students. So depending upon what we're asking those companies to transport, then it becomes either reimbursable from the state as part of our transportation claim, or it's not. So in this instance, in order to be able to claim the miles and be able to get the reimbursement from the state that we need to then pay parents with, it's really not any different than if I asked the parents to start a taxi cab company. They were their own taxi cab company, and I was simply paying them like we do other transportation companies. So in this instance, because we have that independent contractor relationship, we've just simply put into the agreement that we're not paying anything more than the federal reimbursement rate. It doesn't mean that it's reimbursement like they're an employee. We have no employee reimbursement relationship with them. We have literally set the contract up so that they are independent contractors. And then what we do is we sit with State Board to say we have individual contractors who have signed up and agreed to do this. This is the payment methodology that we're using. These are the numbers of miles that they're driving. These are the numbers of days that these students have attended. These are the numbers of students who are impacted by this. And then we put that back into the transportation claim, which helps us with paying for this program.
I understand how we're categorizing this as 1099. My question, because there's not really a, I don't know where you would put, because you're not technically an employee, you don't want these people as employees, but 1099, if you're saying you're getting reimbursed at, I'm unclear as to where we're getting it, and maybe it's at the state level, to income versus just mileage reimbursement.
Because of the independent contractor relationship. What we're trying to do is establish that parents are independent contractors.
Right, but if we're talking about the taxi cab service, if we're talking about our third parties, they're actually getting income from it. Mileage reimbursement isn't income.
And again, this is why we ask the auditors, because at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter what I say, it only matters what the federal government does. So if the state board comes in and says you didn't establish the independent contractor threshold, from their perspective, based on the way we've treated this, or I have somebody from the federal government, we have, the federal IRS comes in and takes a look at our payroll records all the time. So they are constantly looking at what we do. If they come back in and say, you don't need to 1099, if somebody wants to give me the opinion that we don't need to 1099, that I can show to the IRS, then that's a question for the board to make a decision on.
So just to, again, clarify, I would say that if you're a parent who's getting this sort of reimbursement, then your best bet is when you file your taxes, talk to your accountant about it, because it may very well not be a 1099 situation, and they may not. I mean, it's from my consulting with two tax attorneys, they don't believe that it's a 1090. They believe that it's a reimbursement and it's not taxable. So I would say to anybody who's receiving this, please take it to your tax attorney, because
100%. Everybody should always
be
take this.
in a situation of a district of providing things that aren't taxable. You can understand there. And then while I have the microphone, as to the insurance, I'm not ready to let this one go. My concern with dropping from 300,000 policy limit, which is a pretty high policy limit, down to the state minimum, is the fact that it's based in what's called a preemption doctrine, which is the state has laws that you can't make more stringent. It's a federal and state level from a legal, and it's a very odd, nuance that in a very kind of unique area of law. But if the state's requiring a $25,000, $50,000 state minimum policy, we're coming in as a public body and saying, okay, we're at 100, 300. And again, I'm still in the process of researching this, but that's where my position is, that we break it down to a $25,000, $50,000 policy limit, not to mention the inequity that comes with having to have a rather high level of insurance to be able to get a reimbursement.
And I appreciate that. And so, as I stated before, if that is what the board as a whole directs me to do, then I will do that. And the other piece is, keep in mind that when we created this was for those who could afford to bring their children to school on a daily basis. It was designed for them, not for those who that we would put a burden on increasing their insurance. We wanted to make sure we could eliminate some routes so that students who were totally dependent upon the yellow school buses and their families, that we had enough drivers and buses to meet their need. That's where that came from. It wasn't for people to make money off of. It was just trying to eliminate some of the pressure off of our transportation department. But again, if that is the direction of the board, I'm not going to make that recommendation unless I get that from you all, because I'm not going to go against what the attorneys and the insurance company has guided us to do. I'm not in that position to do so, but you all are, and if that's what you recommend, then that's what we'll do.
Yep. And I followed up with our attorney to see where his positioning is coming from.
Yeah, and that's where we got it from, directly from our attorney.
I do know you need to wrap up. Is there a question toward this part of the presentation?
That's why my microphone is on.
It's a simple yes or no.
Yes, I do have a question.
Go ahead.
So my concern with the higher level of liability would be that we're taking, my question, I guess, Linda, is if they're an independent contractor, then we have no liability because they have an independent. So isn't it just on them to have their own insurance if they have an independent contractor? So it seems like there's two separate issues here, that if you're truly independent and we're going to 1099 you, you deal with your insurance because you're an independent contractor.
I think the part of the conversation that the insurance company would say to us, so there's two pieces to this, right? There's our protecting the district piece, and then there is where the board's comfort level is with respect to community members and parents who are trying to transport. If we're talking about protecting the district, the 100,000 is what we ask all contractors to have. And so it's just simply what we use to protect the district. Now, theoretically, we can tort, if we get sued, we will pay out, the insurance company will pay out to what our maximums are, and then, we've got the ability to certainly tax additional amounts of money in order to be able to pay out any kind of a claim. So again, the insurance company is going to come at it from the standpoint of our job is to protect the district. For the board's consideration, it would be sort of that counter argument.
Thank you.
And I just want to do what's best to protect the district, but that's why I'm in this position. So like I said, I will do whatever.
Why is the district accepting liability for anybody? I mean, to me, that's something that needs to be addressed with the attorneys as to why we don't have releases preventing it for them to come back to us. I mean, I'm personally not comfortable with a policy where if somebody gets in an accident on the way driving their kid to school, I mean, maybe their auto insurance has lapsed. We're not checking up on that. Maybe they're driving under the influence. There's a million different things. I don't know why I would be concerned with why the district has that liability. And then to what Mark says with the 1099, if they're 1099, they should have their own, insurance, and they should be liable. As a district, we shouldn't necessarily be liable, and we should at least have people, if they're doing this policy, sign releases so that we're not, because that brings up a big problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, not a question, a thought. As this conversation, they always say no good deed goes unpunished. I think in the spirit of what we were trying to do, to your point, we were trying to lift the burden off of the transportation department. So I was counting in my head, August, September, October, November, December. What if you paused this in this fiscal year? You've had a trial run, and then do an evaluation of the program. Did it really do what you wanted it to do? Did it relieve the burden off of the transportation department? Did it do what you wanted it to do?
Okay.
And in turn, who is getting paid? And I think that's been the biggest issue, because it feels like an inequity, because there are people who are making money off of this at being reimbursed. I'll qualify it. But what if you just paused it? We don't have to keep this going. It's causing, I know, it's a tremendous conversation here. It's a tremendous amount of work for the district to do this. And it was a great idea in theory. Pause it, just look at it. Did it do what you intended for it to do? And then bring back maybe a recommendation once this is vetted. I was looking up at the Baker-Tilly response, and the Baker-Tilly response was to our contract. It wasn't to could we do it. And the only reason I was watching the county board meeting, because I'm apparently boring, and it was the same law that the state had this requirement, and because certain communities were requiring more stringent beyond what the state required, it was deemed illegal, and they were having to work around that. I don't know if it falls into the same vein at all, but it could give you time to really thoroughly look at it, reassess, and decide if you even want to do this. Did it work? Did it do what you intended?
Perfect.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Thank you. And I just want to show this next little slide here, because the reason I brought this up is because this next slide is going to show you what we're dealing with. So what you see here is this table illustrates the students attending each of our schools. and it's broken down by the proximity of the school, and it shows if you're 2.5 or more than 1.5 miles away from the school. But that Squibble Scrabble, for those of you who are old as I am or older, who remember that spiral graph, that's what that looks like to me. But those are the routes that our bus drivers drive. Last year, that's what it looked like last year. And can I tell you, it doesn't look much better than this year. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looked like last year with all the different routes. So that is why we came up with the whole idea of the reimbursement piece so if we could eliminate some of those routes. And I love the idea of going back, and we've talked about this as a team in cabinet to look to see if it's really giving us what we were hoping it would do. And I know it's taken some students off the route, but doesn't mean the route is still not running. So that's what we have to investigate and see. So we will go back and have this conversation in cabinet. We'll get some more information, but we still have a transportation issue and challenges. I'm finished.
I know you were patiently waiting, Ms. Vasquez.
I appreciate it. I think these are all important conversations, but you said something at the beginning, Dr. Boozer, that we are not unique. If you attended the state board meeting, you would have heard every district we were with saying the same thing. We are not seated anything in any special spot. And I've written this down because I want to make sure I say it correctly because it really does give me anxiety to say this, but I think it's time to say it. When is it time to revisit the school assignment process? And more specifically, revisit what we were recommended by the consultants? Because while there's a disruption, no matter what, at this point, we are disrupting education. And as you aptly said earlier, this is about the kids. These are about our students and our children and our children and our families. And the evidence is strong that the model we're working on right now is also not working. So I will reiterate, and I'm prepared for what I'm about to say publicly. When are we revisiting the school assignment process? And with some amount of speed. I don't think we have another school year to wait. I think I'm talking about August of '24. I know we can't fix anything by January of '24 because my magic wand doesn't work. But I mean August.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Okay.
Well, that took a turn.
Well, I mean, actually, I'm glad it did because what I'm thinking, I really believe if we truly take the time and meticulously examine our current process and how we optimize our transportation system, we can get away from that and do something different. But am I hearing you all say that you want us to make sure we try to do something and it's going to be something drastic? So, I mean, if you're okay with that, I'm good with getting a team of folks together, some of our families, some of our administrators, teachers, whoever we need to, community members, to come together and look at the history of transportation, why we chose the student assignment process the way we have, the things that we've already tried to do, and all these things, because can I just tell you all, this is my night of being vulnerable. I don't have any more answers. I need help. We need help. I don't like looking and seeing emails that say no transportation. That puts a pit in my stomach, and I struggle with that. So if this is what the board wants us to do, we can start working. We have cabinet tomorrow. We can start talking about who needs to be at the table and have this conversation and get the work out there and see what other people can come up with, because this is not a unit 4 per se. It's all of it's a we issue.
But Dr. Boozer, it's kind of like what I was saying last meeting, to reconvene that, I don't care what you call it, the tiering process. Because you can't allow the conversation to be completely destroyed by outside forces. It has to be a holistic approach with the community and those who were involved.
Okay.
So, I talked about how it worked for a referendum, and you had board representation, but the community had to own the idea. And it's not their decision. It comes back to the board. But I think, back when we had the first conversation, transportation was not allowed to be a part of the conversation. It wasn't the focus. Right. And then it just spiraled.
Right.
And I think if we can keep the spiral out, get back to what does the staff say we need, what does the community who was involved in the decision need, bring it back to that tiering, have a thoughtful conversation there that said, you have 3 recommendations, take this back to the board. Committed people who are not goal-driven of their own.
Right.
And we're all impacted, right? When every decision is made, it's impactful. But Heather is getting to the heart of it. It has to come back to a conversation because this is hurting kids, it's hurting our staff, and ultimately it hurts the community.
Right, I totally agree, because it's the morale of our transportation department, the pressure that it's on the transportation department, our teachers, our administrators, the community, our families. This is a big conversation, and so I'm ready to do this work.
Yeah.
So.
And I'd just like to say one more thing. To clarify, from my position, I think I can speak for everyone on the board, it's not a fault issue of anybody. It's just a situation that has occurred since 2019, and we're going to have to try it. Okay, this year we tried a different model. Doesn't work. Let's go back to the data. Let's look at, for example, we could probably use programs to run bus routes if we did a different type of school situation, judging by where the kids are, and move forward from there. And if that doesn't work, back to the drawing board until we find something that works.
And could we put a priority of their not picking up children at 6:20 in the morning?
Yes.
And 6:30 in the morning? I think that really is so, they should not be on buses for an hour and a half.
I think we can come up with some solutions that just, honestly, just remember, it's probably going to require something very drastic.
Everything's better than where we are right now with
Okay.
Sheila, having sat in 2 of the buildings, in the elementary buildings in the last 2 weeks, and seen students sitting on the floor, waiting for a bus until 3:45, and they've been out of school for an hour and 10 minutes. And we have an impromptu Kids Plus on the floor because Kids Plus is helping them and the teachers are helping. And there is an administrator who can do anything but pay attention to these 19 children who are just patiently waiting to go home.
And to clarify that our bus drivers are running extra routes. They're
Constantly.
picking things, Brad's taking on extra routes. If somebody's not there, if it's our at-risk areas, he's doing his best to try and go pick up those kids. So it's not like we don't have staff that's not working. We just, with the confines of the requirements to be a bus driver, we just don't have it.
Correct.
I think you can take from this, Sheila, that we understand it's drastic and timely, I hope, is the takeaway.
I will add one more piece. I was going up to the meet. I think I was already there, but I was reading in our latest November-December journal edition, and the whole article was very interesting, but there was one part that talked about how this article examines the 3 operational considerations that must be addressed if a school district truly values and is committed to creating equitable opportunities for all students: communication, finance, and transportation. And as you talked, Ms. Vasquez, I remembered that I had read this, and as I flipped to the end of the article, I realized who wrote it. Dr. Hardin. Dr. Hardin. You did. Maybe some experience with our district, but I think each of you has pointed to some incredibly important issues, and I think that we do have some staff that are here that acknowledge and recognize the issues that we have in front of us, and so, yes, do the work. Bring it back.
Thank you. That's all I needed to hear. All right, y'all ready? Community, you ready? Because we're going to start getting some people, so we're going to be asking. Not ready? I do want to say thank you, because this just is another example as to why I appreciate sitting in this role, in this seat, because the hard work has to be done, and I'm ready to do the work. I just need to make sure I have the support to do what needs to be done, and I know we have the brilliance in this system and in our community to make this work. So thank you, because basically what you just said to me is this strategic plan is not just on paper, it's a reality, and we want to make this work. And so we can take care of this, and then it will help us with our academic improvements, because I am not pleased with our academic progress, but I am pleased that we are making progress, but not quick enough, because we got issues like this, transportation, that are impeding on that and taking a lot of time. But I am grateful to my staff for hanging in there, but we're going to get this done. So that's all I have. Thank you.